The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned. Download the tuning app onto your mobile phone today and catch up on all the latest news from HitzAfrik Radio. Broadcasting live on modern Ghana and our website www.hitsafrikradio.org. HitzAfrik Radio News Hour live.
Good morning. The time is exactly 7 GMT in the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Today is 23rd of April 2021, and we have the news for you today. Now on to our headlines. 16 Galamsey excavators seized at Amenfi West in the Western region. Abu Jinapur stopped prosecuting activities in all forests reserved. African presidents arrive in Jamina ahead of Debi's funeral. Delhi hospitals run out of oxygen supplies. Popular comedian dies at 27. These and many other stories I bring your way this morning. Stay tuned as we do the news in details.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned.
You're still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Now let's do the news in details. 16 Galamsey excavators seized at Amenfi West in the Western region. Some 16 excavators believed to be used by illegal miners in the Watan destruction and pollution of river bodies have been seized by the Western Regional Security Council. The security team made up of Operation Vanguard, Immigration, National Security with support from the Amenfi West district stormed some illegal mining sites at Samerabwai in an anti-Galamsey operation dubbed Clean Water. The operation forms part of President Akufo-Addo's effort to clamp down on the activity. West Regional Minister Kwabena Otredaku-Mensah led the operation, which saw the seizure of the earth machines used to mine in the Tano River. Scenes of destruction and degradation were visible from miles away. Abandoned pits and mining settlements are dotted the road leading into what is left of the once vast arable cocoa farm. After navigating through the dangerous terrain of open pits filled with water, we arrived at the mining settlements directly on the River Tano. The Tano River, which runs through these cocoa farms, has turned muddy with no sign of life. Tanks and barrels filled with diesels were found on the site, but the illegal miners were nowhere to be found, as the task force believed someone had given them information of their coming. The vast cocoa farm depicts scenes of cocoa trees cut and buried in mud. The Western Regional Minister was devastated by the sight of the river and called on the Regional Security Council not to rest until all miscreants along water bodies in the Western region are flushed out. What beats my mind is that this illegal operation they have been doing is close to the Tano River, and look at how turbid it has become. And when it goes all the way to the south, it becomes difficult to control, he said. He charged the MMDCEs to be committed to fight against Galamsey, to ensure sanity in the system. The minister pledged to continue to fight the menace and to ensure Ghanaians live in a peaceful environment and have potable water to drink. Dr. Daku-Mensah appealed to the chiefs to see themselves as real partners in the Galamsey fight, as they will be first to be impacted by the devastation. Meanwhile, Municipal Chief Executive for Amenfi West, George Adri, assured they are going to arrest anyone connected with such allergies. He opined that they are going to begin a patrol on the Tano River to ensure the perpetrators face the law irrespective of their status. The western region is most likely to battle acute water shortage if illegal mining continues on its water bodies, as the Ghana Water Company Limited has already confirmed the difficulties they are encountering in providing potable water in residents. Moving on to other stories, Abu Jinapur stops prosecuting activities in all forests reserved. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has ordered the suspension of all prosecuting and cognizance currently going on in any of the forest reserves across the country. He has charged all companies and persons undertaking any such activities to, within a matter of 7 days, withdraw their equipment from the forest and abandon the process until further process. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources hereby directs persons and or companies engaging in reconnaissance and or prosecuting in forest reserves, with or without illegal authorization, to suspend activities till further notice. Whereas the final communique of the National Consultative Dialogue on Small-Scale Mining held at the Accra International Conference Center on the 14th and 15th April 2021, in paragraph 12, emphatically charged government to take steps to put in place systems that will rigidly apply the law. Nothing particular the sanctions or penalties imposed by Act 995 to all those who infringe the law, irrespective of political color or socio-economic status or class. Indeed, the better placed in society and who ought to know better should have the most punitive of the penalties put to them. Whereas the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has a mandate to ensure the sustainable management and utilization of the nation's forests, land, and wildlife resources, as well as the efficient management of the mineral resources for socio-economic growth and development. And whereas the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has taken note of the unfortunate and unlawful practice of some people and or companies acquiring licenses under the pretext of undertaking reconnaissance and or prospecting in forest reserves, and yet proceed to engage in illegal mining in such forest reserves, with its obvious adverse consequences on the environment. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources hereby directs persons and all companies engaged in reconnaissance and all prosecuting in forest reserve, with or without illegal authorization, to suspend such activities until further notice. The minister has served notice on the request to various regional security councils to strictly enforce these directives. Moving on to other stories, Democratic Congress Ofosu Ampofo's take on how NDC can recapture power. Samuel Ofosu Ampofo, NDC National Chairman of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, Samuel Ofosu Ampofo, has said a united front is the only way the party can recapture power. The party's post-election analysis, he said, has revealed the party worked extremely hard in the 2020 general election, but circumstances beyond them could not guarantee them a win. We had a stronger horse with a stronger ride, and the election 2020 was a closely fought one. Unity is strength, and that is the only thing we can bring the NDC back to power again, he said on Asempa FM's Ecoseason. Mr. Ofosu Ampofo stressed the party was built on the foundation of unity, hence the need for the rank to file to stay together. I have made the party attractive and strong since I became a chairman, and I've brought a lot of middle, top class, and an array of professionals to the party. This, I believe, is due to a complete implementation of the Kosibitri report, he said. Moving on to other stories, NDC pink sheet digitized. The much talked about pink sheets of the National Democratic Congress (NDC) have been digitized. National Chairman Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo has said party members demanded the 2020 presidential and parliamentary results now have the opportunity to access the sheets at the various constituency and regional offices. His comment follows complaints by leading members of the NDC that the party leadership did not engage in any systematic and proper collation of elections results. One of the people who have questioned the leadership in this area is Dr. Benjamin Kumbuo, who claims the party's rank and file is yet to be convinced that the party won the 2020 presidential election, especially when its own collated results still remain a mystery. He warned the NDC might suffer a credibility crisis if the Ofosu-Ampofo-led executives fail to make public collated election results to convince its members. Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, NDC National Chairman, resounding to the concerns, the NDC National Chairman said all party members were aware it has the collated figures. However, the actions of those embarking on demonstrations over the results are born out of mischief. If people are not up to any mischief, the collated results are there. It has been digitized, the NDC chairman said. Mr. Ofosu-Ampofo also disclosed that the party has done an audit of the entire election results, which has proven that indeed the NDC won the 2020 elections. And this is where we end our local stories. Stay tuned as we do other African countries.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned.
You are still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV. We are transmitting live on our website at www.hitzafrikradio.org. We are also streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Now let's do some other African countries. African presidents arrived in N'Djamena ahead of Debby's funeral ceremony. The late Chadian president's funeral ceremony is slated for April 23rd at the Place de la Nation in the capital. By Redaction Africa News and AFP, Nigeria's President Mohamed Bazoum touched down in the Chadian capital N'Djamena on Thursday, a day before the funeral of the late Chadian President Idris Deby. Deby died after sustaining injuries on the front lines against rebels, the army said on Tuesday. The late Chadian President's funeral ceremony is slated for April 23rd at the Place de la Nation in the capital. The ceremony will then move to the Grand Mosque, also in N'Djamena, before the mortal remains are taken to Amjaras city for burial. Already, the Guinean head of state Alpha Condé and Mali's interim president Ba Ingao are in N'Djamena for the funeral ceremony. Other presidents are expected Thursday night and Friday morning. The death of President Deby, who's been in power for 30 years, has opened a period of uncertainty for Chad. The Central African nation is threatened by the rebellion and also within the regime. Moving on to other stories, UN Tigris humanitarian crisis worsen. No Eritrean exists. A shepherd walks in front of an abandoned tank belonging to Tigrayan forces south of the town of Mehoni, Ethiopia, on December 11, 2021. The UN humanitarian chief warned Thursday that the grave humanitarian crisis in Ethiopia's embattled Grey region is deteriorating, with no sign of Eritrean troops withdrawing and alarming widespread reports of systematic rape and other sexual violence, mainly by men in uniform. Mark Lowcock told a disclosed Security Council meeting the UN knows that 45 million of Tigray, nearly 6 million people need humanitarian aid, and the government estimates 91% of the population needs emergency food. He said his office received the first report earlier this week of 4 displaced people dying from hunger, and Thursday morning he received reports of 150 people in the Ofla district, just south of Tigray's capital, Mekelle, dying from hunger. This should alarm us all, Lowcock said in his briefing obtained by the Associated Press. It is a sign of what lies ahead if more action is not taken. Starvation as a weapon of war is a violation. No one knows how many thousands of civilians or combatants have been killed since months of political tensions between Ethiopian President Abiy Ahmed's government and the Tigray leaders who once dominated Ethiopia's government exploded in November into war. Eritrea, a long time who once dominated Ethiopia's government, exploded in November into war. Eritrea, a long-time Tigray enemy, teamed up with neighboring Ethiopia in the conflict. Lowcock said humanitarian organizations had hoped things would improve after Abiy announced in late March that Eritrean troops would leave Tigray, but he said neither the UN nor the aid groups it works with have seen any proof of withdrawal. We have, however, heard some reports of Eritrean soldiers now wearing European defense uniforms force, he said. And regardless of uniform or insignia, humanitarian staff continue to report new atrocities, which they are being committed by Eritrean defense forces. As an example, Lowcock cited by Amnesty International reports that Eritrean troops killed 3 people and wounded indiscriminate shooting attack on civilians in Adwa town. There are also reports of militias from neighboring Amara attacking civilians in western Tigray and driving them from their home, while Amara authorities restrict access to those who fled, he said. As for reports of sexual violence, Lowcock said one unnamed agency reported that 30% of all incidents against civilians involved some sort of sexual violence, and nearly 25% of reports received by another involved gang rape, with multiple men assaulting the victim, sometimes repeatedly over a period of days, and with girls as young as 8 years old being targeted. Cases reported have involved Ethiopian National Defense Forces, Eritrean Defense Forces, Amara Special Forces, and other irregular armed groups or aligned militia, he said. Lowcock said he is left to conclude that there is no doubt about sexual violence is being used in this conflict as a weapon of war, as a means to humiliate, terrorize, and traumatize an entire population today and into the next generation. Moving on to other stories. Lawyers representing Zuma withdraw from corruption case ahead of trial. Former South African President Jacob Zuma appears in the High Court in Pietermaritzburg, South Africa. Another blow to former South African President Jacob Zuma. Lawyers representing him have filed a notice seeking to withdraw from the case. The lawyers led by Eric Mabuza filed the notice as Zuma's attorney but did not provide any reason for the withdrawal. The move has dealt Zuma another blow after the Supreme Court of Appeal ruled that he was entitled to pay for his legal fee. The same court later ordered Zuma to pay back an estimated $2 million in lawyers' charges that has received over the years from the state. Zuma is facing 16 charges of fraud, graft, and racketeering related to the purchase of fighter jets, patrol boats, and military equipment. He allegedly took bribes of 4 million euros, $270,000, in a 3.4 billion US dollars arms deal with French aerospace and defense giant fails in 1999 when he was deputy president, and the latest ruling is a setback of Zuma, who faces legal battles on multiple fronts, including a pending court judgment on whether he should be jailed for refusing to testify at a state commission of inquiry, which is probing graft while he was president from 2009 to 2018. The commission has heard testimony that Zuma allowed members of the controversial Gupta family to influence his cabinet appointments and state contracts in favor of their businesses. Zuma has refused to testify at the commission, where he has been implicated by several witnesses, including people who were cabinet ministers where he was president. And this is where we end other African stories. Stay tuned as we do some world news.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned.
You are still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV. We are transmitting live on our website at www.hitzafrikradio.org. We are also streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Now let's do some world news. COVID-19. Delhi hospitals run out of oxygen supplies. 6 hospitals in the India capital, Delhi, have completely run out of oxygen, and doctors say other hospitals have just a few hours worth of supply left. A number of people have died while waiting for oxygen, and more than 99% of all intensive care beds are full. India is in the grips of a second wave of COVID-19 infections, and on Thursday recorded the highest one-day tally of new cases anywhere in the world. The country has recorded close to 60 million confirmed infections. There have been 314,835 new coronavirus cases in the past 24 hours. While that rose by 2,104. Why second COVID wave is devastating India? How India failed to prevent a deadly second wave. It feels like we are back to square one in India. There have been reports of state authorities stopping oxygen tankers from traveling to other states, according to Delhi television station NDTV. Some facilities have been accused of hoarding their supplies. Indian politician Sarab Imbaruja, who is being treated in a Delhi hospital for COVID, posted a plea for help in Hindi on Twitter, saying there were just 3 hours of oxygen left where he was. Politician Sarab Baradauj spoke from his hospital bed. A lot of people are dependent on oxygen, and without oxygen, these people will die, just like fish die in the absence of water. A nursing home refused to admit Miss Kaur without a family member to care for her, but no one was well enough to do so, so she had to stay at home. After several phone calls and pleading, I managed to organize the cremation through a charity for my mother, which was carried out with some usual rituals, he said. But there were no final farewells by family, and the memory of her death is very difficult to deal with mentally. Mr. Sai's brother and my sister-in-law were admitted to hospital in Delhi, and using his contacts in India, he was finally able to secure the medicine and oxygen they needed. Although he said he struggled in part because of rising medicine costs due to the black market. In January, the pandemic was relatively under control, but since then, the situation has gone from bad to worse for a number of reasons. Moving on to other stories, Arcade Ullah Times Square subway pipe bomber jailed for life. U.S. Security Judge Richard Sullivan described the attack as a truly barbaric and heinous crime. They were just people on the way to work or school, Judge Sullivan said, before sentencing Ula to life plus 30 years on Thursday. To you, these people were expendable. There were no deaths in the bombing, but 4 people were injured. The explosion also forced the closure of the station, as well as the busy Port Authority bus terminal. The pipe bomb was made from materials obtained from a nearby construction site where Ula had been working as an electrician. Ula was convicted in November 2018. His sentencing hearing was originally scheduled for April 2019. However, it was delayed by 2 years, partly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Ula was from Bangladesh but moved to the US in 2011. At the time of the attack, he was living in Brooklyn with his mother, sister, and 2 brothers, while his wife was young and young son lived in Bangladesh. And this is where we end our world news. Stay tuned as we do some entertainment news.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned.
You're still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Now let's do some entertainment news. Obuo reacts to Mark Okrekumante's deputy ministerial appointment. Ex-president of the Musicians Union of Ghana, Vice Osei Kufuor, popularly known as Obuo, has congratulated Mark Okrekumanté on his nomination as Deputy Minister designed for tourism, arts and culture. Obuo took to his Instagram account to share a congratulatory message he specially designed for the purpose. Congratulations, Honorable Mark Okrekumanté, on your appointment as Deputy Minister Designate for Tourism, Arts and Culture. His appointment comes after months of rumors and mixed reactions from persons in the industry about his possible selection. Obuo himself was rumored to be one of the people in contention for the opposition. Moving on to other stories, popular comedian dies at 27. The late Mercy Cynthia Chiningwa, Nigerian female comedian Mercy Cynthia Chiningwa, popularly known as Ada Jesus, has passed away after battling with a kidney ailment for months. The Imo State social media comedian Ada Jesus died on Wednesday, 21st April 2021 at age 27. She died while receiving kidney treatment in a hospital in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. The late Ada Jesus was hospitalized for months after being diagnosed with kidney ailment. She discovered her acting career at a very early age and has over the years garnered thousands of followers on Facebook, where she regularly posts her content. And this is where we end our news for today. Stay tuned as we do a recap of our headlines.
The News Hour, coming to you live from the studios of HitzAfrik Radio and TV. Stay tuned. Download the TuneIn app onto your mobile phone today and catch up on all the latest news from HitzAfrik Radio. Broadcasting live on modern Ghana and our website www.hitzafrikradio.org. HitzAfrik Radio News Hour live.
You are still logged on to HitzAfrik Radio and TV. We are streaming live on our website at www.hitzafrikradio.org. Now let's do a recap of our headlines. 16 Galamsey excavators seized at Amenfi West in the Western region. Abu Jinapur stops prospecting activities in all forest reserve. African presidents arrive in N'Djamena ahead of the beast funeral. Delhi hospitals run out of oxygen supplies. Popular comedian dies at 27. These and many other stories we brought your way this morning. Stay tuned for the rest of our programs. My name is Abuna Ahuni. Have a lovely morning.